No. No, 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 no. This is the most stressful thing ever. It's when my mind starts fracturing. Oh no, princess! What have I done? Come on, narrator. Is the narrator capable of having fun? Let's break that down. His whole intention is on escaping the doom of the world. I don't think he does anything to move towards pleasure. It's all about moving away from pain. This is their paradigm, and they're both kind of maladaptive, but we'll break that down. Let's see what kind of princess we get first. Hello, and welcome back to Therapist Plays Slay the Princess. All right, we're back for another run, and this time we're choosing a different path for the woods. Maybe not even a path that leads to the cabin at all. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing the psychology of avoidance to kind of explain what happens when disengagement from our problems becomes our whole pattern of dealing with them. And also times where avoiding a problem is actually the most appropriate thing that you can do. So this one's pretty complex. Let's just say, quite thematically to this episode, there is more than one dimension to the subject of avoidance. And I will say, I'm very curious to see now where we take this playthrough, because while I thought it would be wise to sort of stop one playthrough and end it there and start a new one, this route has me reconsidering. We may be building on the same storyline after all, but I'll let the episode explain why that is. So with that all said, I hope you enjoy. Hello, and welcome back. All right, it's time for us to explore some new paths in a new iteration of this series. Now that we've completely finished the game one way around, I'm really curious to check out some of the paths that we missed, check out some of the pristine cut stuff. And I'm gonna try to do things a little differently this time, because I've already done like a blind sort of narrative telling of my experience playing it, and now I know generally the structure of the game, although there's probably still stuff we haven't figured out. So my approach to analyzing it is also going to change slightly. Instead of trying to crack the code, so to speak, I still want to provide like different psychological perspectives every episode, but I'm not going to put a ton of intention into like keeping them super consistent run to run. What I think would be fun instead is like basically pick a path, whatever we're going to end up doing, trying to see some of these harder to find princesses, and I will choose a psychological perspective to pair it with that helps explain the behavior that I'm choosing. And it will not always be rational. In fact, it likely won't be at all. But it's going to help us understand why people make decisions that are not always rational. So, let's see what we got.
You're here to slay her. If you don't, it will be the end of the world.
This we know. Okay, so one of the perspectives that I definitely never checked out before was just never going to the cabin. We've explored all of these before, maybe not all of them, but we've tried all of the essential paths: going, taking the blade, going, not taking the blade, hesitating, doing exactly what the narrator wants. We haven't just tried to just not do it. And I'm thinking because I don't know what I'm going to find when I click on this. But I'm going to guess that this is going to present us a pretty good opportunity to talk about avoidance as a category of behavior, which is really, really important in my work as a therapist, and most especially in my work as a therapist treating addiction. Because yeah, avoidance is not necessarily a behavior, it's a category of behavior. We do things that are avoidant, but it is not at all that one-dimensional, because sometimes avoidance can be okay. And we're gonna probably get into why. But first, let's get a little bit of context for what kind of situation we're getting ourselves into before we break down what we find. So, I'm not going to do it, narrator. I'm just going to turn around and leave.
Seriously? You're just going to turn around and leave? Do you even know where you're going?
No, I don't. The only thing that matters is where I'm not going. The cabin. I'm not going to the cabin. That's right.
Fine. I suppose you just quietly continue down the path away from the cabin.
That's right.
Good. What we're being asked to do here is wrong. Better to wash our hands of this whole situation than to take part in it.
Yes.
Ignore that annoying little voice. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
I'm actually curious
That's
where we end up.
strange.
What?
It looks like this path also leads to the cabin.
No!
How convenient. Everything's back on track again. Maybe the world can still be safe.
No, I am trying to be avoidant here. Turn around again and leave. Again.
Really keen on wasting everyone's time, aren't you?
Yes.
It's remarkably selfish, if you ask me. I've already outlined the stakes of the situation. If you don't do your job, everyone dies. Like, dies. Forever.
Still won't do it. I don't care. I'm not killing a princess. Let's see. Good. Maybe everyone should die. It's what they get for dumping me in the woods and asking me to kill someone for them. I guess that's... We can choose how strongly we want to avoid this situation. And again, like I said, avoidance is not necessarily a bad thing. We're going to look at it from multiple different dimensions. But we'll first just look at it and say that avoidance is, I mean, at its most basic level, like, we as people tend to do things that will lead us towards pleasure and away from pain, right? That's the most simplistic reasoning I can give for why we operate the way that we do, unless the pain is pleasurable for some people, which in that case, it's still correct. We're still moving towards the thing that we see as pleasurable, even if the thing that is pleasurable is the pain, right? But like, this is it, summed up, basically. Like, we do not find the idea of going in there pleasurable. We find it manipulative. We find it immoral. We find it unpleasant, scary. Like, it could be a number of things, which is going to determine how strongly we want to avoid this, right? Now, like I said, avoidance by itself, it's not a bad thing, okay? Generally, when we're thinking about all kinds of behaviors, we can kind of break them down as adaptive and maladaptive, right? And adaptive behaviors, they are adapting to, like, reasonable situations. Like, if you're being chased by someone who has their own pristine blade, you should avoid them. You should go away from them. You should avoid toxic people. You should avoid harmful substances, people who want you to get to do them, like all kinds of stuff, right? Like, that's a natural human response. I don't want to give the stigma to avoidance that is, like, categorically a bad set of behaviors. I just know that there's going to be someone who responds to this video and is like, but Brady, I avoided something and it turned out well. You're not who I'm talking about here, okay? What we're going to be talking about is maladaptive, meaning that we avoid things that we don't have to, or we avoid things that are not going to cause us pain, but we perceive them to, okay? I'm thinking of things like when we start catastrophizing about something that hasn't happened and we have very little reason to think it's going to go terribly, and we start practicing all kinds of avoidance, procrastination, minimizing, denial, like all kinds of stuff that we're going to get into. But like, when it becomes an overcorrection, it becomes maladaptive. Anxiety is the same way, right? Like, anxiety is your normal, natural response to stress and like things that should scare you, and it's normal. It's your, like, alarm system, right? It's it's supposed to do that. When it becomes maladaptive, it's overdoing it. It's become persistent and disproportionate to the event. Like, someone just says hello to me and I have a panic attack, right? Like that might be a little bit more maladaptive in terms of anxiety. And like, that's really what makes the distinction between your average anxiety and your like anxiety disorder. It becomes a disorder when it starts to become vastly disproportionate to the situation. Some situations it's okay to avoid and it's okay to feel anxious. That's not who we're talking about. We're talking about stuff that you don't need to avoid, okay? And we're actually not there yet. Like, we don't know what we're gonna find in this cabin. I think it's a perfectly fine thing to avoid right now, right? Like, something about this is we're sensing it's going to cause us pain, even just a mental discomfort to do it, right? So like, we're not maladaptively avoiding anything right now. We're just normally avoiding it. And I think I'm gonna go with this one. I don't care, I'm not killing a princess.
Killing is such a gauche phrasing and completely ignores the bigger picture. Your task is to slay the princess because she's terrible and she's really got it coming to her.
She's got it coming, eh? I'm not doing it.
Fine. You turn around and trek back down the path you came.
That's right.
Oh, would you look at that? You're at the cabin again. Now, I'm not normally one for superstition or astrology, but I have to say, it seems like the universe itself is doing its best to bring you to your fated confrontation with the princess.
So now the thing that I am finding myself wanting to avoid, like I'm no longer... the thing that's causing me the pain or discomfort in this situation is not the cabin or what I might find in there. It's the narrator. It's feeling claustrophobic on this path that I seem to be unable to break away from. Oh yeah? Well, I guess I just start walking in a different direction again. In fact, I'm going to just keep trekking through the wilderness until I find a way out of this place. That's right.
There's always a choice. Let me tell you right now that you're making the wrong one for pretty much everyone who has ever lived, as well as for everyone who ever will.
Say it ain't so.
And here we go. As you trudge into the woods, something strange starts to happen. At first, it's little flickers out of the corner of your eyes. Glimpses of familiar wooden structures through the leaves.
It's getting weird.
But as you focus on your surroundings, you start to realize that those flickers weren't just a trick of light.
What?
In every direction, there is a path and a cabin. And not just a cabin, the cabin.
Oh.
An infinite fractal of paths and cabins desperately trying to draw you back to where you need to be.
Oh my god, our mind is melting now.
Wait, what's going on? You're too stubborn for that, aren't you? It doesn't matter how many paths or cabins appear around you, you're just going to do whatever you can to shirk your responsibility because you care more about irritating me than you do about the fate of the world.
At this point, I do. I just want to do whatever the opposite of what you say is.
You've doomed us all. You know that, right? But of course you do. Otherwise you wouldn't just wander off into the forest in search of certain death.
I literally would choose death over doing what you say at this point.
You lose track of just how long you spend aimlessly walking through the wilderness. But it's not like any of that time spent lost in the woods really matters, because it isn't long before the world ends and everyone dies.
Okay. Oh, we just go straight to chapter 2. All right. Chapter 2. The stranger.
You're on a path in the woods, and at the end of that path is a cabin. And in the basement of that cabin is a princess.
Things look a little different, though.
You're here to slay her. If you don't, it will be the end of the world.
Okay. So we are developing more of an antagonistic relationship with the narrator this time around. Like before we were sort of skeptical of him and distrusting, which makes sense. But I feel like the path we're on right now is like straight up antagonistic. Hold on, I want to choose this one, but I kind of just want to insult him. You bastard! Or no, there was another one. Okay, no.
Oh, don't use grandstanding about morals. The fate of the world is at risk right now, and the life of a mere princess shouldn't stop you from saving us all. If he doesn't remember what happened, then maybe it's best to keep it that way.
Yeah, let's do whatever we can. The narrator's not included in this one. Fuck him.
I don't know. I think it's more fun if he knows what we're thinking. He's like a captive audience.
Oh, okay. So the contrarian wants the narrator involved.
The entire world ending wasn't enough to get rid of us. I don't think there's much he can do other than object. I wonder what else we can do to ruin it.
Okay, so the contrarian, his only priority is fucking with the narrator, which I love. Especially when you factor in like our previous whole playthrough with the narrator. Okay, this is making me interested where this is gonna go.
If by ruining my day, you mean ruining everyone's day forever, then yes, I suppose there are plenty of ways you could pull that off.
So our objective has transitioned from like, we're not trying to figure anything out anymore. I don't give a fuck what's at the cabin. I don't care what kind of princess it is. I don't care about anything other than pissing this guy off.
The world really did end last time, didn't it?
Who cares?
Be careful. For all we know, we just got lucky.
Doesn't matter.
The world hasn't ended yet. And you are never going to slay her with that attitude. Stuff those pathetic little voices to the back of your mind and stay focused on the task ahead.
Okay. Those walls weren't here last time. You can't just force me to go to the cabin. Yeah. Yeah.
What are you talking about? I'm sure those walls have always been there. It makes sense if you think about it. If there weren't any walls in the woods, someone might have gotten lost. Or, heaven forbid, someone other than you might have stumbled onto the princess.
Yep. Okay. Heading to the cabin now, where I'm definitely going to slay the princess.
You know I can tell when you're lying, right? Please take this seriously. I am begging you.
I'll do nothing like that.
A warning before you go any further. She will lie, she will cheat, and she will do everything in her power to stop you from slaying her. Don't believe a word she says.
I think I'll just believe every word that she says, because I know it'll piss you off.
If we're stuck going in there, believe her. Maybe she isn't a liar.
That's right.
Ignore him. He's just being difficult for the sake of it.
Literally. It's kind of what I'm doing.
Let's keep an open mind.
Okay. I'll proceed to the cabin. What's important is that I do the opposite of what the narrator wants.
The cabin interior is wrong. A confusing patchwork of many cabin interiors, all projected across what's almost the same space. But it's all shifted. An inch here, a foot there, such that the seams are never quite visible enough for the place to make any sense.
Interesting. Are we in space? Are we in the Death Star?
The only furniture of note is a plain table, its legs all the wrong lengths. Its material devoid of feature. Perched on that table is a pristine blade.
So everything is just slightly out of place. I even love how the parallax effect has like made it so that the foreground and the background are separate. Oh, this is wonderful.
The blade is your implement. You'll need it if you want to do this right.
Well, I'm sure the contrarian says, nah, we won't need it.
If he wants us to take it, maybe we should just leave it to collect or better yet, grab it and throw it out the window. What good is a knife against a world-ending monstrosity anyway?
Yeah, I can agree with that.
No, we're taking the knife. Have you seen this place? We have literally no idea what to expect and no idea what we're dealing with. I've already told you what you're dealing with. You're dealing with a princess. How many times do I have to explain this incredibly simple and straightforward premise?
At least a dozen more times before we finish the series.
You can't just say that. But when everything here is so wrong.
I kind of want to throw it out the window.
Listen to me. My job is to describe facts as facts and to guide you through your job, which is to slay the princess and through that action, save the entire world.
I don't believe you.
And if you're going to slay her, you cannot let fear creep into your heart. You cannot lose yourself before you even get to her.
Maybe it's the princess that will creep into my heart this time.
Oh, you've piqued my interest. What's going to happen if we lose ourselves? Because you're going to pull yourself together.
Oh, okay. So if you want me to pull myself together, then maybe I should just do whatever I can to unwind myself.
Just ignore the stressful geometry and stay calm.
That means I'm gonna do whatever crazy shit that I can.
How? Even if we closed our eyes, you're constantly describing it to us.
Fuck
I'm
it.
going to stop doing my job. So you're just going to have to get better at yours. And quickly.
If you say do better at my job, I say I'll do it worse.
Yes, take a deep breath. I'm all for getting under his skin, but we'll miss out on loads of fun if we shrivel up into a ball and go insane the first time we see something weird. The thing here is obviously real. Just accept it and go with the flow. It really isn't hard.
Interesting. We'll come back to this point about acceptance and going with the flow as coping strategies.
Okay, I'm fine.
I love that the hero is being soothed by the contrarian.
Good. Now, whenever you're ready, we're all waiting for you to complete a very important task.
All right, take the blade. Let's take the blade.
You take the blade from the table. It would be difficult to slay the princess and
Do I get to throw it out the window now?
Okay, fine, you took the knife. But you really shouldn't hold it like that. How are we supposed to hold it? The other way, thumb at the bottom. Will look much cooler and more serious if we hold it with our thumb at the bottom.
That's right. I'm most comfortable with the blade up like that.
It really doesn't matter how you hold the blade, as long as you have it. Just make a choice.
I'm holding it the other way.
Switch your grip on the blade. Congratulations.
Oh my god, it even changed my little icon.
Yes! It's so much better.
I love the contrarian.
Okay,
He's having so much fun.
this does look a lot better.
Even the hero knows it. Come on, narrator. Is the narrator capable of having fun? Let's break that down. In the lore, is the narrator capable of having fun? Is he capable of actually doing this, like moving towards pleasure? Or is he actually only capable of going away from pain? I mean, what we know about him is that his whole intention is on escaping the doom of the world. Like, he's a sentient avoidance-based life form, basically. Like, I don't think he does anything to move towards pleasure. It's all about him moving away from pain. Yeah. The more I think about it, and the more I think about his comments, like when he says, like, slaying her will be doing her a favor, right? Like, he's not saying you're gonna feel good about this and you're gonna feel relieved for saving the world. It's like, you're gonna be removing the pain of her circumstance from her. Like, that's just his whole way of thinking. Which is fucking perfect for the contrarian, because he's all about move towards pleasure. Like, whatever's funnier, whatever's weirder, like whatever doesn't make the most sense but is gonna piss him off. This is their paradigm. And they're both kind of maladaptive, but we'll break that down. Let's see what kind of princess we get first. But I think they are opposite sides of the coin here.
It really doesn't matter. Just get on with it and deal with the princess already.
You can see he's just like, deal with it. I gotta get away from the pain of dealing with you, of waiting. Listen to every comment that he makes now and fit it into this. I'm curious to see if this plays out like that. Does he ever dream of having fun? Can he even understand it? I mean, while I do think it's kind of cool that we have the blade like this, I kind of want to throw it out the window.
Yes! Seriously. Youth.
Fuck it.
Blade at the window, glass showering the cabin as your weapon flies out into the night. I suppose you'll just have to deal with the princess without it.
I know he's gonna just throw it in there anyways, the bastard.
We'll be fine, don't worry about it. What's the worst that could happen? The world ends. Been there, done that.
He's not at all invested in the idea of escaping pain. Like, to him, it doesn't matter. This is perfect.
I'm not so sure. This place is already messing with my head. It would be much better if we had a weapon.
Whereas the hero remains like a normal functioning brain at the moment, right? Like his avoidance is still pretty adaptive. Like he doesn't want to go into what could be a stressful situation without something to protect himself, right? So I think this is where I want to break down like something a little more specific about avoidant behavior, because the hero being kind of in the middle of this gives us the perfect medium to talk about the two extremes that we have here between the narrator and the contrarian. So we can classify behavior as being disengagement and engagement, okay? And we can consider disengagement behavior more as avoidance and engagement behavior more as coping, right? Like, that's kind of what we have available to us when we have a problem, is we're either going to try to cope with that problem in myriad effective ways, or we're going to try to avoid it and not cope with it very well, right? And we can actually split this up into two more ways. One being problem focused, and the other being emotion focused. Okay. So let's get a mirror image here on the other side. This is what we're looking at. Okay, so when you're dealing with something, okay, you have, let's just talk about this side first, right? Problem focused is trying to deal with the actual issue itself. Okay, so I'll use something really simple as an example. Like if I have to take a test tomorrow and that's what's causing my distress at the moment, this is what we are trying to do to engage with the problem. Emotion focused coping is about what I'm trying to do about the feeling I have about the problem, right? Because these are different things. To engage with the problem might mean that I try to study for the test. It might mean that I try to, rehearse writing some answers down that I might expect to be on there. I could, look up similar exams and check the answers, right? I could review my homework. I could talk to a peer who is more knowledgeable in the subject. Like I'm doing something to minimize the amount of stress caused by the problem itself. So I'm engaging with the problem. Emotion-focused coping isn't so much about reducing the stress from the source of the problem, but reducing our stress in response to it. So I might do some self-soothing. I might tell myself it's gonna be fine, right? It won't be so bad. I've prepared enough for this. It's gonna be all right. Like I might practice some of those sorts of things. I might engage in some acceptance, right? I've studied as much as I can and whatever happens, happens, and I'll move forward, right? Like I'm coping with the emotion about the problem, not necessarily doing anything to solve the problem itself. I might want to vent about my frustrations to someone. I might seek support, right? Talk to someone who can, motivate me or something like that. I might watch a show that calms me down, whatever, right? Like I'm dealing more with the emotion. I might do some emotional regulation, okay? When we look at the, units of distress scale that I did, right? I could do certain things to bring myself down in levels of distress, and that would be falling under like emotion-focused coping, right? Ideally, you do both of these, okay? Ideally, you do all of them. And that's going to prepare you to go into that stressful thing feeling a little less stressed about it, right? This would be an adaptive way of like responding basically to the stress of this problem. And really, yeah, they should be used together. When we look at disengagement as a form of coping, we tend to do the same thing, okay? Problem-focused avoidance, we will try to do something to the problem itself, like by escaping it, right? Like, don't go to the cabin. Don't go to school. Just don't show up at all. Show up, but don't go to the class, right? Like, you might do something that is designed to eliminate, minimize, or dissipate the threat, right? All of this is in response to like threat stimuli, right? Like the stressful thing is the test, it's the princess, it's the narrator, like whatever we've decided is the threat to us, that's what we're responding to, right? We might quit. I'm just gonna drop out of school, fuck it, right? Switch classes, change schools. Like you might do all kinds of extreme stuff to minimize the problem itself, okay? And the emotion-focused way of dealing with that is not dealing with the problem, but dealing with your feelings about the problem. And we might engage in a bit of denial. You know, the test isn't going to be that bad. Might minimize it, right? I might procrastinate. These are all avoidance strategies. They're doing nothing to solve the problem. And they also these don't really solve my anxiety. In fact, the more that we engage in disengagement behaviors and avoidant behaviors, they provide a kind of temporary relief from the threat, but they usually lead to more long-term anxiety maintenance. Right? Over time, these become our like way of dealing with conflict, these sorts of things, and they prepare us. We become proactively avoidant. Like, not only am I responding to the test I have coming up with avoidance, but anytime someone says I have to do something, I'm going to avoid it. Anytime I'm told there's something important happening, I already minimize it. Like it becomes proactive, preventative. It becomes super maladaptive and actually maintains our levels of anxiety, right? Again, I'm not talking about stuff you totally should avoid. Like if you need to escape a real bad situation or quit a bad relationship, do that. Do that, okay? That's not bad. Disengage. Disengage. Fucking leave that stuff, all right? We're not talking about that. This is about dealing with problems that we're actually equipped to deal with that just scare us, right? It's just perceptive that the level of threat is there. Like the test isn't going to kill me. It's disproportionate to quit school entirely because I'm afraid of it, right? And so disengagement / avoidance, not always a bad thing. In fact, even the emotional stuff isn't super bad all the time. Dissociation. During an extremely traumatic event is an effective way of getting temporary relief, right? In fact, it might be necessary to survive that situation. So this is our basic, maybe not so basic, model of what we're looking at when we're thinking about avoidant behavior. And like I said, it's not very one-dimensional. It's actually quite complex, and it's not always the case that avoidance is going to be all bad. We avoided coming to the cabin because, well, the distress of like being in a situation we can't control, right? We tried to disengage, we tried to escape, we tried to quit. Now the contrarian is coming in to like kind of deny the severity of the situation. He's minimizing, he's doing a lot of this stuff, right? but he's not very productively trying to reduce the level of distress in the situation. The hero probably wants to be in this area. That's what he's basically saying. Like, this place is messing with my head. It would be much better if we had a weapon. Like, being able to defend himself would be a problem-focused way of reducing the stress of the problem, the situation that we're in. And trying to negotiate with the narrator or the princess or any number of voices would be an emotional focused thing. Like, we're trying to prepare ourselves better for the situation. So the voice of the hero is still a functioning, a normal voice as of now. Let's see if we can break him down.
What's done is done. Good luck, hero.
Okay. We've done all the mirror stuff. I don't know if this actually does more. Let's see.
Ooh, we should look at ourselves. Wouldn't that be fun?
I guess the voice does comment differently
You
on it.
won't be looking at yourself because there isn't a mirror. There's the table and the door to the basement. There's nothing else in here. There's definitely a mirror. There isn't. You insisting it isn't there just makes me want to look at it even more.
That's right. Yeah, in a sense, like, the contrarian is not really focused on de-stressing anything. He senses that the narrator is like withdrawing from anything painful, and he wants to make it more painful. So he's practicing like disengagement tactics, not by trying to solve any sort of problem, but by trying to make someone else's problem worse than his own, which is pretty toxic, but quite enjoyable. Why would you lie about that? What's the point?
Exactly. Why would I lie about something so meaningless? What good would a mirror even do? If you waste time preening yourself instead of doing what needs to be done.
All right, we're gonna approach the mirror.
You walk up to the wall next to the basement door. It's a wall. There isn't much to see here. This really isn't funny. You reach forward and rub your hand against the cabin wall. I hope you know how ridiculous you look right now.
Okay.
But it was there a second ago, and now it's gone. You know that taking the mirror away from us isn't going to change things, right? We'll find it again, and then we'll see whatever it is that you don't want us to see.
I love this guy. He's great. All right, let's go in the basement.
The door to the basement creaks open, revealing a web of branching staircases all built from unidentifiable materials.
Interesting. This is going to complicate things a lot, because one of the main reasons that we have this whole paradigm about disengagement, avoidance, coping is that this is about control, right? The more control that we have over a situation, or even just perceived control, the better equipped we are to engage with it. The more likely we are to choose this path, right? Which is why you'll see all kinds of things come through in our behavior sometimes where it's like, well, I'd rather have the blade than not, right? I'm trying to increase the likelihood that I'll have some control over the situation. She might not be dangerous, but if she is, I want to be prepared for it, right? Some control over the emotion-focused things, like when there was too many voices and it's too much to focus on, like we want to empty our mind. Anything we can do to get back control. You're basically doing a check on yourself that if we feel like we will have more control than not, we're likely to engage. If we feel like we are not able to control the situation, it's much more likely that we disengage, right? And we escape, we quit, we deny, we procrastinate, we do all these sorts of things. This is making it look like we're having less and less control because fucking reality is literally breaking down. We have no idea what we're going to find down here, and the path could be infinite. And so the question of what's going to happen, it's provoking what we might call our uncertainty tolerance. Okay. we'll dive deeper into that. This is getting, there's actually way, more stuff than I planned to to write in this one. But the uncertainty tolerance is our tolerance to uncertainty. How much we're willing to go into a situation not knowing what we're going to find. Let's say that at the beginning we were thinking, well, I don't know what I'm going to find in the cabin. I won't go. Not being very tolerant to uncertainty. Coming into a situation like this and being like, fuck it, I don't know where to go, what I'm going to find, doesn't matter. Like, then we're tolerating a lot of uncertainty. And that's actually the treatment for this, right? We'll dig deeper into that as we go. But one of the things that we're looking for when dealing with someone who has highly avoidant behaviors, and that, again, is such a broad category of things. I've done, cases where we're looking at an eating disorder, which has its own kind of avoidant behavior. We're avoiding the discomfort of, the idea that I'm going to gain weight, or I don't like the sensation of eating, or I don't like the shame that comes from it. So like I'm going to restrict my eating, right? In the case of like hyper anxiety, social anxiety, I'm going to avoid that social situation. I'm not even going to go anywhere. I'm going to stay inside, or I'm going to skip school every day, or whatever it is. Like avoidant behavior comes through on all kinds of places. And it especially comes through with addiction, right? Avoidance of distress, avoidance of responsibilities, whatever we're looking at, right? Like we could put substance use disorders in the category of avoidance all by itself. I don't really think the contrarian gives a fuck that we don't know what we're going to find. I think he finds that quite fun, actually. He's maybe a little too tolerant to uncertainty, and so he'll engage with anything, basically. Whereas the narrator can tolerate no uncertainty. Like, he doesn't like it when we make any decision that's not what he wants. He fucking freaks out or complains. Complaining is an emotionally focused way of avoiding. And I'll make a distinction between complaining and venting. I'll give you an example. Lately my partner just hasn't been paying a lot of attention to me. I don't know what's wrong. I'm really worried that I said something, that upset them. I really wish things could go back to the way they were. Things have just been so difficult lately, and my job is really tough. I'm trying my best, but it's just putting a lot of pressure on me, and I really need her support right now. Like, venting. I'm not really looking for someone to solve the problem, right? That would be like, hey, how should I talk to this person? What should I say to my partner? What should I do about my job? That's very problem focused, right? Venting is just an emotionally focused thing. I need to talk about what I'm going through. But there's a lot of I feel statements. Like, I feel like I'm not in control of the situation. I want things to be better. Like, there's a lot of desire. There's a lot of basically my values coming through in what I'm talking about. And it's not aimless. It's not necessarily solution focused, doesn't need to be, but it is, the whole goal is just to reduce the emotional distress, not necessarily solve the problem. Now let's look at complaining. Yeah, I came home yesterday and she didn't even pay any attention to me. She was just paying attention to this show that she watches, and man, I just don't know why she watches that. There's nothing interesting happening, and I just feel like, when I come home, I really want someone who, pays attention to me. My job sucks. My relationship's not doing well. I just wish that things were going better for me, but I can't solve any of these problems. This is just complaining, okay? There's not really a lot of value-based exploration going on. It's not venting. I'm not productively working out my emotions. I'm literally just complaining, right? And it's not dealing with the problem. And it's also not dealing with the emotions I have about the problem. That dialogue is not likely to lead to the next time I have this issue, I'm being ignored by someone, that I'm going to approach it differently. I'm most likely just going to complain more. That's avoidant, right? So you kind of have opposite sides of the same behavior. This is why avoidance is really hard to work with in therapy, because we don't even always know what it looks like. It's quite complex.
Nothing here seems to belong, and the closer you examine your surroundings, the more confused you get, your head throbbing with the effort of making sense of this place. None of the stairs even seem to go anywhere, let alone down.
Uncertainty tolerance. Where is it? Where is it, actually? Let's see what the contrarian says. I'm guessing he finds this extremely entertaining.
The air here has a sickening, almost sludge-like miasma to it, the kind of indiscernible quality that comes from the blending together of every scent there is at once. An odour that is simultaneously everything and yet the sum of it all coalescing into a thick, nauseating nothing. Right, the princess lives here. Slaying her is probably doing her a favour. Her voice, a disquieting collage of tone and personality, drags up the stairs.
Hello? Hi. What are you doing here? Are you here to kill?
What? There's like 5 princesses.
No, thank you. Don't be such a baby. I don't want to do this. Let's just turn around and leave.
Yep.
This feels wrong. This feels like a trap. Like whatever we do, we're gonna die.
A normal amount of uncertainty tolerance. Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna get. There could be 5 different personalities down there. Some of them dangerous. Let's just bail. Again, this is like probably a normal time to avoid. I would avoid this. I would.
We don't even have a weapon.
We don't even have a weapon. We do not feel like we're going in with enough control to... Sorry. The hero... I know, I'm not the hero. The hero is not going in with enough control to justify going forward, to engage. And so he wants to disengage.
But we already tried turning around and leaving, didn't we? And he threw up a wall. No way to go but forward. And whatever choice we make, whatever she is, we know one thing for sure.
That we're not gonna slay her.
And what's that? That the fate of the world hinges on your success? There'll still be plenty of ways to ruin his day.
This is just as good. Ooh, take the soft stairs to the right, take the harsh stairs to the left. Let's just take the center. Go middle of the road.
You step onto the center staircase. Paths wind out around you in all directions, each step branching into its own staircases, which branch into their own staircases, and so on. You aren't quite sure if yours is taking you up or down, but at the very least, it's taking you somewhere. Concentrate on where you are, careful not to stray onto any of the many splitting branches that tempt you on all sides. You wouldn't want to have to backtrack to yours once you'd made a decision that took you someplace else.
Yes.
And so you
be very painful, wouldn't it, narrator?
Careful, focused step after another. 1 foot down, another foot down, another after that. You lose yourself in following the correct pattern, in following what looks to be the true path, the one that cuts straight down. Or up, or maybe sideways. But no matter the direction it goes, it certainly is the most true path. You know that much.
Okay.
You slowly lose sense of yourself the further you go. Time disappears, and you can feel yourself begin to untether.
What is going on?
Physical sensations dull and then vanish, until the only things experienced are the endless repeating patterns and emotions of the journey, a continuous march forward to a destination long forgotten. Consumption and betrayal, skepticism and blind devotion, rivalry and submission, terror and longing, pain and unfamiliarity. And at the heart of it all, an emotion that can only be described as...
Can I help you?
Okay, that whole sequence was so artistically phenomenal. And I am so glad I am seeing this as like a first playthrough, because what he just said has so much more meaning to me now. And what we're experiencing as well. This has got me thinking that maybe I will try to weave all of this into a continuous narrative. Like, maybe what we experienced already doesn't have to be the end of one cycle and the beginning of another. But if I factor it all in, I have to think about that. Because this is looking like some multiple realities type stuff anyways.
What the hell was that? What happened to us? I feel so strange. Like I'm fundamentally different, but also still the same person I was at the top of the stairs. Oh well, that was a trip, but now it's over. Time to get back to our old devil. Princess, eyes bright but otherwise shrouded in darkness, watches you impatiently from the other side of the basement. Don't forget why you're here.
Why are we here?
And why are we here again? In case you weren't listening, I'm afraid I lost myself on the way down. You're here to... He's just being an ass. We remember. I'm still not sure if we should trust you. Let's talk to her for a bit, try and get our bearings. She seems normal.
Yes, so now that we know we're in the situation already, and there's not likely a lot of opportunities to disengage. I mean, we could still emotionally disengage in some ways, but we're gonna try. We're gonna try. The hero's gonna try. We're gonna try to first address the problem. The problem not necessarily being the princess, but being the situation. Is there anything we could do to transform the situation to make it less stressful? Look for a key. Look for a way out. Try to get her out. Try to get ourselves out. Whatever. And then the emotion focus side. Let's try reasoning with her. Always a good tactic. Getting down here was weird. Like I was pulled apart and put back together again. Do you know what happened to me? Let's go with this one first. I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was here.
And yet here you are. How strange. Do you remember anything at all? Do you know why you're here? Do you know me?
The shadows recede, revealing the princess's face. She's so blank. I have no idea who she is. Isn't that fun? A new puzzle for us to take apart. If she's keeping her cards close to her chest, it's because she wants to deceive you.
It's okay. Don't worry. Sometimes I get lost here too.
What is happening?
As the princess speaks again, it's almost as if she fractures. And where there was once just one of her, there is now another. We can do that?
What?
I don't like this. It's those cabins all over again. Can we put her back? You said you'd been here before, right? What exactly happened last time? Does it matter? Yes, it matters. But I'm not going to waste any more time prying out details if you're going to be so irritating about it.
This is like the princess experiencing what we did, like having multiple perspectives at once, all vying to influence her decisions.
It seems to me like you saw something you weren't supposed to have seen. If only you'd listened to whatever words of wisdom you were given in that other reality. But what's done is done, isn't it? Whatever you saw last time, unsee it. Whatever thoughts weaseled their way into your head, unthink them.
Unthink them.
Too late. You have a job to do here, and you need to do it now. Oh, new plan. Let's see if we can make even more of her.
Oh my god! There's more of you now.
There must be something wrong with you. I'm the same as I was a moment ago. And what's that supposed to mean? Are you trying to get under my skin?
Oh no. What have I done? Oh, I'm back in a nightmare.
She fractures again. I don't like where this is going. Neither do I. Which is why you need to slay her now before things get more complicated than they already are.
We don't even have a blade.
How would we even do that? Where would we start? We could always start by retrieving the blade.
We threw it out the window.
The one he made us throw out the window. I wasn't the one who threw it.
That's true, I threw it out.
Oh, come on, you told us to. Don't try to pass the blame now that it's come back to bite us. Well, if I'd known we'd be dealing with this, maybe I wouldn't have been so hasty with my suggestions.
Yeah, the contrarian is... He's a different kind of avoidance. I mean, he'd never assume responsibility for anything either, it seems.
I don't think we're going to be able to put her back. Kind of hurts to think about it, doesn't it? It's like everything we say just multiplies her. It certainly looks that way, so please, for the love of everything, stop asking her questions and stop stalling. You're obviously just making things worse.
I'm kind of curious how many we can make. What's your name?
Princess. You can call me Princess if you'd like. You can address me as Your Royal Highness or Her Majesty. Any honorific should do, really.
We're getting, yes, a couple of the princesses we've already encountered, it seems.
None of them have names. How astute. I told you she was untrustworthy.
Getting down here was weird, like I was pulled apart and put back together again. Do you know what happened to you?
I don't remember what it was like before I was in this place. Why would I know what happened to you?
So this one is just sort of blank.
We're probably stuck down here forever, aren't we? There's no way out, and barely a way in.
This is like the voice of the cold, but princess.
Sometimes I feel like I'm being pulled apart too. It's so terrifying down here. But at least now you're not alone. And I'm not alone either.
This kind of reminds me of the damsel.
You're not really cut out for this, are you? Why are you even here?
A little bit more like the prisoner. I could be wrong. Why are all these all highlighted? Isn't this 3 different replies? I don't know. That doesn't look right. I know we've already explored this, but I'm kind of curious what she says, because we've got multiple of them here. For all I know, you're locked up here for a reason. Do you know why you're down here?
Is this a quiz? If you're here, then surely you know why I'm here. But you know, right? You have to know. You're the only other person I've ever seen, or at least the only one I can remember. Don't give me false hope. Please just end this already. One way or another, just do it.
Oh, poor thing. Can I save her?
Oh, don't be coy. We both know why I'm locked away here. I'm a monster, and the second I get out of this place, I'm going to end the entire world.
Oh, no!
This is reaching its breaking point. If you don't act now, there will be nothing in here but her. Take a deep breath and focus up. You can do this.
Shit.
But how do we decide what to do? Can there even be a right choice when all of them are so different?
I don't know now.
Stop overthinking it.
I'm overthinking.
Drifting thoughts have clearly been part of the reason this situation has gotten out of hand. If you're trying to do the right thing, there's only ever been the one option, and that option is slaying her.
How?
Just do something. Do anything. Do all of it, if that's what you want. This place is hell, and it's only getting worse.
Okay, the contrarian's actually afraid now, which is making me terrified. He's only about having fun, and even he's kind of scared. Okay, I guess I have to click this, even though it seems a little glitched. Regretfully think about that time you threw the blade out the window.
That's not right. Go on. You take a step forward. Your foot lands, but it lands...
No way. No fucking way!
Experience a firm footfall, a gentle tread, a confident stride.
Wait, that's what's purposeful? Like, I thought it was a glitch, but maybe it's just, it's supposed to be like that. That I don't get a choice. That my own mind is fracturing. Oh God, what is going to happen?
You can feel yourself rupture. The room spins, your perception multiplying in a sickening kaleidoscope as your very self is pulled in incomprehensibly many directions.
No. This is the most stressful thing ever. It's when my mind starts fracturing. Oh my God.
In your hands, all at once you use it to strike at her bindings as you remain upstairs and slay her and leave her to languish.
What the fuck is happening? It's all happening at once.
Is this what the end of the world looks like? What an unbearable mess. But this... we can't... Do you not have anything witty to say? Use a good bit of wit right now.
Yeah, someone say something funny. Get me out of this nightmare.
No, I don't, because this isn't fun. How are we supposed to have fun if everything is happening at the same time? It's the same as nothing happening, and nothing is excruciating. Luckily for all of us, nothing and everything doesn't go on forever. The world and the princess collapse in on themselves before it all falls apart. I think he's gone.
Narrator's already gone?
We were never going to salvage this, were we?
What? Is this like the shifting mound?
What happened to us? What are we? There are parts of us that are dead, and others, they just don't fit. They just don't fit. We can feel them moving around in spaces they don't belong. It's all so uncomfortable.
Oh no, princess! What have I done?
Did you do this? Did we do this? Can you pull us back apart? Can you fix us?
I can fix you.
We should help her. I think we did this.
The contrarian is actually coming around to something really important, actually, about all of this, which is that sometimes even the disengagement strategy is okay. Like, the contrarian has been avoiding the severity of the situation and taking accountability, and he's just been avoiding in a very different sort of way than the narrator was. But sometimes we clinically will actually consider it to be important to exercise a little bit of avoidance in extreme scenarios, so long as it looks something like this. Okay. The idea here is that this is about gaining a bit of control so that we can go and actually engage with a problem, right? Sometimes when we don't have enough control to engage up front, we do get a little bit of control, even just as a perceptive sense of control by avoiding. But we should utilize that productively to then come back around and actually engage, right? As a sort of like way to just improve our ability to temporarily perceive control in a situation so that we move past the avoidance and the uncertainty tolerance of the situation, right? And this is really important for, like I said, extreme cases like PTSD, for example, right? Because let's say you have someone who, goes into an environment, claustrophobic environment, and it reminds them of, something really distressing. They're going to have a PTSD response. It's completely appropriate to, leave the room, right? To do something problem-focused to distance yourself from that situation. Distancing is another cognitive diffusion. It's a whole other lecture to get into, but there's a lot of ways that we could talk about this, right? But it's okay to distance yourself from that situation, but we don't want to go too far. When we learn that this is the way to deal with the problem, that PTSD response, it becomes persistent and, like I said, over time leads to maintaining anxiety rather than increasing our uncertainty tolerance. So we don't want to learn the lesson of, I'll just avoid anything that looks similar or feels similar to my PTSD. We may want to avoid it, step out of the room, step back, do a couple of emotional regulation things, right? Do some stuff over here first, and then come back when we feel a little bit more in control of ourselves and engage, right? Spend time in the discomfort, because this leads to what we call a restorative feeling or effect, meaning that it can result in restoring the natural level of distress around this event, right? that room or that building or that coffee shop, like that's not where your trauma happened. You're just experiencing a perceptive reliving of it, right? And if you need to avoid it temporarily to get some control, but then engage with it, this can lead to some restorative healing of like your association with this unrelated thing. And you will learn that, oh, I actually was able to engage with that. I was able to be in that place and not be stressed. And I was able to talk it through, right? Like all of these lead to restorative feelings. And so sometimes the avoidance is okay. And I kind of feel like maybe this is where the contrarian is banking, right? As he's sort of coming around to like, okay, we needed the contrarianism to survive that crazy situation where we didn't have a lot of control. But now that we're like looking at something that we really do need to engage with, maybe we do feel responsible. We're sort of coming back to the idea that, look, our distress around this is maybe disproportionate. She's not going to hurt us. Maybe we should actually feel some of the emotions that we've been covering up with humor this whole time.
How surprisingly sincere.
It's literally what I was thinking. It's literally what I just talked about for like 5 minutes.
I didn't actually think our actions had consequences.
He's getting it. He's getting it. We're restorative.
It's a little late for regret, isn't it?
Please.
But it also tells us that the contrarianism's behavior was all avoidance-based, disengagement-based, because deep down, he has emotions. He has a moral perspective. He cares about the consequences. All of the joking and all of this stuff, like, it was his way of ineffectively coping with the situation because there's too much uncertainty in how am I going to feel if these actions have consequences? I don't know. So why don't I just perceive there to be no consequences? I'll do my best. But you don't know if she had the chance to hear your reply. She's gone, replaced with something else.
She's gone. Where did she go? Should we try and find her? And there's that mirror again. Why is it here? Why now?
The narrator is gone.
It is. Does that mean the world ended?
Okay, we've seen
What are we
this.
supposed to do now?
Approach the mirror.
I'm begging you, don't do this.
Ignore him. You approach the mirror.
This doesn't feel right. It feels different. Final. Yeah, don't look at it. I don't like that thing.
And this is where his avoidance comes back in. And this is actually... His avoidance has come back around to being natural. Exactly like I was saying before. His life is about to end. It's okay to want to avoid that. You're not being like adaptively, you're not coping adaptively by just like engaging with every single problem. Like, this is a threat to him. When I look into the mirror, he's going to go away. Of course, him and the hero have a natural desire to want to flee pain. What's interesting, though, is that the contrarian became essentially, right, what the narrator was, that he was fighting so hard to be the opposite of, which is, if this guy's all about avoiding pain, I'm going to be about going towards pleasure. But faced with real consequences and some looking at reality, deep down, he wants to avoid pain just as much as the narrator did. The voices feel small, distant as you approach. Gaze into your reflection. Silence as you reach forward. They're gone. But the mirror remains. It's time for you to see what's in it. It's you. You're alone in a place that is empty. It is quiet here. Proceed. You're at the cabin. Approach her.
Something finds me in the long quiet and brings me the gift of a fragile vessel.
Okay. So this is our first encounter with, well, what we know to be the shifting mound. And we've kind of already asked a lot of the basic questions in the prior playthrough. I just want to make sure, though. The gift of a fragile vessel.
Yes, nerves and fibers to feel the worlds beyond, perspectives to make my own.
Okay, so it is...
These ones are a contradiction,
Oh.
a winding kaleidoscope of paths and walls. They are stretched into a shape not unlike me, but it is a shape they cannot hold.
Yes.
I am sorry that you met this vessel so early in your journey, but they will make for a rich and vibrant heart.
Interesting.
Do not mourn them, for they will finally get to know themselves.
What does it mean by that? I'm sorry you met this one so early. What are you?
I am solitary lights in an empty city. What are you?
Okay. Just want to make sure we're not missing any dialogue. What do you think I am?
I think that you are like me. We are oceans, reduced to shallow creeks.
You know, while I've seen this dialogue before, like, it has so much more context now that I know what I'm listening to. Oceans reduced to shallow creeks. So many potential people that we can be, but we're reduced into very narrow dimensions of that personality based on the choices that we take. Every choice that we take narrows down our range of control over the situation, the emotions we can have about it, and the reasoning and the meaning that we can make about it. And so we're not able to represent ourselves as the deep oceans that we are, in a sense. Are you the princess?
She is part of me, and part of me is her.
But you were always the princess, or are you just making her a part of yourself?
You speak in circles. Does it matter where one thing begins and another ends?
You're the narrator.
You are the only thing I have ever known. The space we're in is vacant. Nothing comes here but us.
Okay. So we've explored some of this prior. What happens now?
Nothing, as we are. But I know that there are worlds beyond us, and that we are meant to reach them. There is no exit, but this vessel is a creature of perception. She can make you forget, if only you believe her to be able to.
Okay.
Bring me more perspectives, so that I may be whole. And perhaps then we will know our freedom.
So last time around, we became friendly with the shifting mound and left together as gods. Probably take a different approach this time. How can I twist myself into justifying a different approach? Let's see. This character that we are beginning... I just can't do it. I can't not try to weave this into a storyline. It's just how my brain is built. Okay, I'm thinking about starting an adventure like this, trying to avoid an outcome. you know, we tried to avoid not necessarily slaying the princess, but we tried to avoid being responsible for whatever happens. We threw the knife out the window, baited by the contrarian. We hesitated when we had more opportunities to do that. So maybe the person that we are building as we reflect on this second playthrough is someone who is fearful of taking that responsibility, which in a narrative arc would mean that near the end we eventually do take responsibility. But that's for the future. Aren't you scared that I'll find a way to kill you?
I have not lived. I am not afraid to die.
Okay. And what if I don't let you do this to me?
Then we will be here forever, as we are now. Unfinished, dry, hollow.
Okay. This is fitting for me. I'm not going back.
If you need time, then I'll wait with you.
Still feeling the contrarianism. I'm gonna wait forever.
You are as I am now, and forever is a long time to remain undone. I'm
feeling in my roleplay self like this. What I've learned is, I think in small ways the contrarian was able to be a bit restorative, but this is what I imagine to be the narrative arc of this. The next couple of chapters of this is like, right now we are in the avoidance phase of going this way, the disengagement. I don't want to take responsibility. I don't want to be involved in this complicated thing. I don't know what it contains for me. I have too much intolerance to uncertainty. I'm afraid of what happens if I make the wrong mistake. Like, that's all the stuff that I'm thinking about as I put myself in the perspective of the character I've made decisions for in this episode. Until we come back around and find that the thing we were avoiding maybe isn't something we need to... Maybe we are more prepared for it than we thought.
I am not you, but I know that I would return before forever was finished. What textures will you weave for yourself to occupy forever? Will you place the images of you and I into a box for safekeeping?
For those who are like, you know, new to this playthrough, if this is your first episode, the reason I am talking about this kind of stuff, like getting in the headspace of my character, is because I don't want to just like, oh, well, I'm going to click this because I didn't click it last time. I don't just want to be like, oh, let's click this because I haven't seen it. That would be interesting. It's so much more fun for me to like try to justify why someone would naturally make that choice, because the developers designed the game for a reason to have all these different paths. So many people from the comments of these videos have been like, wow, I chose something completely different and it felt super natural for me to do that. So I'm trying to get into those headspaces and use psychology to explain why like human behavior is as we see it, right? That doesn't necessarily mean these are all the choices I would make in my personal stance, but to justify seeing something different, I'm going to try to get into that headspace. That's more interesting to me than, well, let's just click it because it's new.
If you close that box, will you become another you in another world? An imaginary pattern repeating itself until it can no longer bear the weight of its hand-drawn cage. You'll always come back to the box, because you'll always want to know what it means to be you. I will be here waiting by your side until you're ready to return to mine.
So there is still something very much about making meaning of things. What?
You have returned to me. Though you were gone mere moments, I never left your side.
Wait. What? I just thought the fucking game crashed. I opened the game again and it's just here? I fucking what? What? Was that supposed to happen? I'm fucking, this game is something else. I literally said wait forever and the game was like, okay, do it. The shit. Okay, make me forget.
She asks that I tell you to remember her. You won't.
It's incredible. This is incredible. Okay.
You're on a path in the woods, and at the end of that path is a cabin. And in the basement of that cabin is a princess.
We're doing it. We're doing another run. Another narrative weaved run. I think this has convinced me that that's really the only way that I can explore these concepts in this way and put together something cohesive about what I've seen. And to justify the analysis. Like, it's more fun for me to do it that way than to just, I don't know, pick a direction and go in there without context around it. And maybe at the end of this playthrough and however many more we do, it all kind of fits together as a continuous thing. I guess we'll find out. Well, thank you again for enjoying another episode of this series. There's plenty more to see, obviously. I continue to be surprised by this game, even after I've completed it once. I feel like I've just kind of scratched the surface, which is both concerning, because I've been known to take a long time being exhaustive with games like this, but also excited because this has become one of my favorite games and it means there's plenty more of it to see. So, until next time, I will see you for another episode. Take care.